Hare Krishna. So, we welcome you all to this reading session on Krishna book, chapter number 14, part 2. So, we had discussed and read the first 6 pages of this chapter yesterday, and today we will be covering the next part. So, let's begin this session by this wonderful prayer from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna, 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 He Krishna, 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 He Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Ram Raghav, Ram Raghav, Ram Raghav Rakshamam. Krishna Keshav, Krishna Keshav, Krishna Keshav, Pahimam. The Pranam Mantra of Srila Prabhupada. नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशातारिणे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, yesterday we had discussed about that Lord Brahma had started to pray to Lord Krishna, and he expressed his guilty conscience that he committed a mistake, he committed an offense at the lotus feet of the Lord, and then he said that just as I am born from your navel, from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So please forgive me, just like a mother forgives a child who is in the womb of the mother. So we had discussed till here. So let's start off our discussion where we left yesterday. Lord Brahma reconfirmed his statement, establishing Krishna as the original Narayan. He said that the Lord's gigantic universal form is resting on the water known as Garbhodak. He spoke as follows: This gigantic universal form is another manifestation of your energy. On account of his resting on the water, this universal form is also Narayan, and we are all within the womb of this Narayan form. I see your different Narayan forms everywhere. I can see you on the water, I can feel you within my heart, and I can also see you before me now. You are the original Narayan. So, Lord Brahma had previously explained that what is the meaning of the word Narayan, that Narayan has two meanings. Nar means the aggregate of all the living entities, right? Aggregate total of all living entities, and Ayan means the resting place, and Ayan also means the source of knowledge. So there are two meanings to Narayan, and now it is being said that the water of this Garbhodak ocean, this is also considered to be Narayan because everything is resting on it. This gigantic, on account of his resting on the water, this universal form is also Narayan. So now, Lord Brahma is saying that I can see you, your different forms, Narayan forms everywhere. Right? You are present in my heart also. You are before me now as I am praying to you. And you are on the water also. So you are the original Narayan. That is, Lord, He's addressing to Lord Krishna that you are the original Narayan. My dear Lord, in this incarnation, you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. You remain within this cosmic manifestation, and yet the whole creation is within you. This fact has already been proved by you when you exhibited the whole universal creation within your mouth before your mother Yashoda. By your inconceivable potency of Yogmaya, you can effect such things without external help. My dear Lord Krishna, the whole cosmic manifestation that we are visualizing at present is all within your body. Yet I am seeing you outside, and you are also seeing me outside. How can such thing happen without being influenced by your inconceivable energy? So Mother Yashoda had seen the complete creation in the mouth of Lord Krishna. So it means that the whole creation is present in the Lord's body. But yet Lord Brahma is able to see the Lord outside, and Lord is also seeing Brahma. So this cannot happen apart from the possibility of his inconceivable energy. Inconceivable means something which cannot be understood. So Lord Brahma stressed herein that without accepting the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot explain things as they are. He continued, My dear Lord, leaving aside all other things and just considering today's happenings, what I have seen, are they not all due to your inconceivable energies? First of all, I saw you alone. Thereafter, you expanded yourself as your cowherd boyfriends, the calves, and all the existence of Vrindavan. Then I saw you and all the boys and calves as four-handed Vishnus, and then and they were being worshipped by all elements and demigods, including me, including myself. Again, they were all wound up, and you remained alone as you were before. So Brahma is reconciling, trying to reconcile the whole situation, and he's asking himself or the Lord that what happened today, is it not inconceivable that first of all you were alone, then you expanded yourself, then you wound up everything. So all those cows and calves, they disappeared, and you are again alone. Does this not mean that you are the Supreme Lord, Narayan, the origin of everything, that everything emanates from you and again enters into you, leaving you the same as before? Persons who are unaware of your inconceivable energy cannot understand that you alone expand yourself as the creator Brahma, the maintainer Vishnu, and the annihilator Shiva. Persons who are not in awareness of things as they are contemplate that I, Brahma, am the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and Lord Shiva is the annihilator. Actually, you alone are everything creator, maintainer, and annihilator. Similarly, you expand yourself in different incarnations among the demigods. You incarnate as Vaman Dev among the great sages. You incarnate as Parshuram among the human beings. You Among the great sages, you incarnate as Parshuram. Among the human beings, you appear yourself as Lord Krishna or as Lord Rama. Among the animals, you appear as the boar incarnation. And among the aquatics, you appear as the fish incarnation or the Matsya incarnation. And yet, you have no appearance or disappearance. You are always eternal. Your appearance and disappearance are made possible by your inconceivable energy just to give protection to the faithful devotees and to the annihilate the faithless demons. O my Lord, O all pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, controller of all mystic powers, no one can appreciate your transcendental pastimes as they are exhibited within these three worlds. No one can estimate how you have expanded your Yog Maya and your incarnations and how you act by your transcendental energy. My dear Lord, this whole cosmic manifestation is just like a flashing dream, and its temporary existence simply disturbs the mind. As a result, we are full of anxiety in this existence. To live within this material world means to simply suffer and to be full of all miseries. So, as Lord Krishna explains the same in the Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. This material world is full of anxieties and simply meant to suffer and to be full of miseries. And yet, this temporary existence, that is Ashashvatam, temporary existence of the material world appears to be pleasing and dear on account of its having evolved from your body, which is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. My conclusion is therefore that you are the supreme soul, the absolute truth, and the supreme original person. And although by your inconceivable transcendental potencies, you have expanded yourself in so many Vishnu forms, and also in the living entities and other energies, you are the supreme one without a second, the supreme super soul. So, Lord Brahma here is making one fact very clear that although you have expanded yourself in so many Vishnu forms, and so we had already explained that there are two types of ansha, that is Vibhin Amsha and Swa Amsha. So, Vibhin Amsha means the living entities which are same in quality but they are different in quantity. But Swa Amsha means the Vishnu incarnations or the expansions of the Lord, which are same in quality as well as quantity. Yet, still there is a difference. So, Brahma is trying to explain over here that you are the supreme one without a second. That is, the original person, the original supreme Lord from whom everything has expanded is Lord Krishna. Brahmaji is very clearly emphasizing this fact over here. Uh, the innumerable living entities are simply like sparks of the original fire, your lordship. The conception of the super soul as impersonal is wrongly accepted because I see that you are the original person. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge may think that because you are the son of Maharaj Nanda, you are not the original person, that you are born just like a human being. They are mistaken. You are the actual original person, that is my conclusion. In spite of your being the son of Nanda, you are the original person, and there is no doubt about it. You are the absolute truth, and you are not of this material darkness. You are the source of the original Brahma Jyoti, as well as the material luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars. Your transcendental effulgence is identical with the Brahma Jyoti. As described in the Brahma Samhita, the Brahma Jyoti is nothing but your personal bodily effulgence. So, what Lord Brahma is trying to explain here is that if somebody is not very intelligent, he might think that you are simply the son of Maharaj Nanda, and that's not very extraordinary. He is just, but he's Lord Brahma is saying that you are not an ordinary person. He might think that such a person might think that you are not the original person and you are just born like a human being. Yet, a person, I don't have any doubt. That is his conclusion. What is his conclusion? And there is no doubt about it that you are the absolute truth and you do not belong to this material darkness. Then now he's explaining that the Brahma Samhita, which is already written by Lord Brahma himself, he says that Brahma Samhita also tells that the Brahma Jyoti, what is the Brahma Jyoti? That the light, that the effulgence that is coming out from the body of the Supreme Lord is called Brahma Jyoti. And the impersonalists are basically attracted towards it. So there are many Vishnu incarnations and incarnations of your different qualities, but all those incarnations are not on the same level. So normally we do not differentiate, uh, but if we examine closely, there is a difference between Lord Krishna and the different Vishnu incarnations. So there, here Lord Brahma is trying to explain it how you are the original lamp. Other incarnations may possess the same candle power as the original lamp, but the original lamp is the beginning of all light. So he is explaining that if there is a candle or there is a lamp, the the candle is has a potency to light another candle of the same power. Yet the original candle remains the original one, the beginning one. So therefore it may be that all the Vishnu incarnations are having uh, similar qualities as the Supreme Lord, but yet the Supreme Lord is the original lamp. And because you are not one of the creations of this material world, even after the annihilation of this world, your existence as you are will continue. Because you are the original person, you are described in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad as well as in the Brahma Samhita as Govindam Adi Purusham. Adipurusham. Govinda is the original person. Adipurush means the original person, the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is stated that you are the source of the Brahma effulgence. No one should conclude that your body is like an ordinary material body. Your body is Akshar, indestructible. The material body is always full of threefold miseries, but your body is Satchidananda Vigraha, that is full of bliss, knowledge, and eternality. You are also Niranjan because your pastimes as the little son of Mother Yashoda or the lover of the gopis are never contaminated by material qualities. So, here different aspects are being explained about the Lord. So, first of all, it is said that Govindam Adi Purusham. This is one quality, that Lord is the original person. Then, next, it is said that the body of the Lord is Akshar, that is indestructible, right? And then he is Satchidananda Vigraha, who is full of bliss, knowledge, and eternality. And now another name is also being given, another quality is being mentioned, is called Niranjan. Niranjan means that his pastimes are not contaminated by any material quality. And although you exhibited yourself as so many cowherd boys and calves, your transcendental potency was not reduced. You are always complete. As it is described in the Vedic literature, even if the complete is taken away from the complete, the supreme absolute truth, it remains the complete supreme absolute truth. And although many expansions from the complete are visible, the complete is one without a second. So, although the spiritual mathematics goes like this: 1 minus 1 is equal to 1. So, even if the Lord has expanded himself into so many expansions, yet he is there is no he is not one without a second, right? His potency is not at all reduced. Since all your pastimes are spiritual, there is no possibility of their being contaminated by the material modes of nature. When you place yourself as a subordinate to your father and mother, Nand and Yashoda, you are not reduced in your potency. This is an expression of your loving attitude towards your devotees. There is no second identity to compete with you. A person with a poor fund of knowledge concludes that your appearance and pastimes are simply material designations. You are transcendental to both nescience and knowledge, as it is confirmed in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. You are the original Amrita, indestructible nectar of immortality. As confirmed in the Vedas, Amritam Shashvatam Brahma. Brahma is the eternal, the supreme origin of everything, who has no birth or death. So, Lord Brahma is, this chapter is little philosophical and little not Leela. Leela is has been covered in the previous chapter. So this chapter is more of the prayers, and where Lord Brahma is trying to philosophically and shastrically explain the position of the Supreme Lord. And in one sense, that is also a very clarifying, these statements are very clarifying, because the highest authority of Vedic literature, Lord Brahma, he is speaking and he is giving his conclusion about the Supreme Lord, right? So we might have various other sources of getting knowledge, but Lord Brahma, who is the one of the biggest authorities on Vedic knowledge, Brahma is the spiritual master of Narada, and Narad Muni is the spiritual master of Ved Vyasji, who has compiled all the Vedas. So Brahma is one of the foremost personality who is knowledgeable, and when he is giving his conclusion, so that really carries a very great deal of value. So let's move ahead. In the Upanishads, it is stated that the Supreme Brahma is as effulgent as the sun and is the origin of everything, and that anyone who can understand that original person becomes liberated from material conditioned life. Anyone who can anyone who can simply be attached to you by devotional service can know that your actual position, birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. means a person who simply can be attached to a devotional service can understand your position, birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. And this is what is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktaya mam abhijanati. Only a devotee who is engaged in my devotional service can know me. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, simply by understanding your constitutional position, appearance, and disappearance, one can be immediately elevated to the spiritual kingdom after quitting this present body. Therefore, to cross over the ocean of material nescience, an intelligent person takes shelter of your lotus feet and is easily transferred to the spiritual world. So we had discussed in the previous part of this session also, in the previous the 6 pages that we had read yesterday, that if somebody understands the Supreme Lord, uh, the constitutional position of the Lord, his appearance and disappearance, then what happens? He goes to the spiritual kingdom. Taktva deham punarjanma na eti. So, what does an intelligent person should do? An intelligent person takes shelter of your lotus feet and is easily transferred to the spiritual world. So that's the conclusion of Lord Brahma's whole discussion, that what one should do to cross over the ocean of material nescience, one should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. There are so many so called meditators who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you are the Supreme Soul present in everyone's heart. Therefore, there is no necessity of once meditating on something beyond you. One who is always absorbed in meditation on your original form of Krishna easily crosses over the ocean of material nescience. But persons who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul remain within this material world in spite of their so called meditation. So, people in this world do meditation on so many things. Some people focus on meditate on some light, some people have nothing to meditate on. They concoct something and they start meditating on that. So, but Lord Brahma is very clearly establishing that what should be the object of our meditation. We should always be one who is always absorbed in meditation on what? The original form of Krishna. What happens to him? He easily crosses the ocean of material nescience. And those people who do not know, they may do their so called meditation, will remain in this material world. If by the association of your devotees, a person comes to the knowledge that Lord Krishna is the original super soul, then it is possible for him to cross over the ocean of material ignorance. For instance, when a person mistakes a rope for a snake, he is filled with fear. But as soon as he understands that the rope is not a snake, he is liberated from fear. So we had seen a similar example that when Putana had come, Lord Srila Prabhupada wrote that Putana understood Krishna to be just a small child, although she could understand that this child was very powerful, but still she attempted to kill him. She misunderstood a snake to be a rope, which was dangerous enough to kill her. So now the similar analogy is being given over here, that if a person mistakes a rope for a snake, then what happens? He will become frightened. He'll be filled with fear. So, if one understands you, therefore, through your personal teachings, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, or through your pure devotees, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam and all other Vedic scriptures, if one realizes that you are the ultimate goal of understanding, he need not no longer fear this material existence. So, fear will remain till the time a person is not in knowledge. But once a person comes to knowledge, when a person comes to understand that this rope is not a snake, so his fear disappears. Similarly, when a person understands his position through the different Vedic scriptures, through the pure devotees, through the Bhagavad Gita, and then he does not fear this material existence. So called liberation and bondage have no meaning for a person who is already engaged in your devotional service, just as a rope is not fearful to a person who knows that it is not a snake. A devotee knows that this material world belongs to you, and he therefore engages in your engages everything in your transcendental loving service. Thus, there is no bondage for him. For a person who is already situated in the sun planet, there is no question for the appearance or disappearance of the sun in the name of day or night. It is also said that you, Krishna, are just like the sun, and Maya is like darkness. When the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. So, for those who always remain in your presence by engaging in your service, there is no question of bondage or liberation. They are already liberated. On the other hand, persons who falsely think themselves to be liberated without taking shelter of your lotus feet fall down because their intelligence is not pure. So, a wonderful analogy being given by Srila Prabhupada over here, that a devotee, he is not fearful of this material existence. The term bondage and liberation do not carry meaning for anybody who is engaged in devotional service. Why? Because a person, it's just like if a person is living on the sun planet, then for him there is nothing like day or night, because the sun never disappears. Similarly, a person who has engaged everything in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no bondage for him, right? Rather, those people who falsely think themselves to be liberated, who think that themselves that they are constantly living in the light of the sun, they fall down because their intelligence is not pure. So, liberation and bondage do not apply to a devotee of the Lord because he is already liberated. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. There is no question for bondage of liberation because they are already liberated. But for whom? For those who remain in your presence by engaging in your service. So, those who are engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord, they are always they always remain in constant touch with the Lord, and they are already liberated. If one therefore thinks that the super soul is something different from your personality and thus searches out the super soul or the supreme Brahma somewhere else in the forest or in the caves of the Himalayas, his condition is very lamentable. Your teachings in the Bhagavad Gita are that one should give up all other processes of self realization and simply surrender unto you, for that is complete, because you are the supreme in every respect. Those who are searching after the Brahma effulgence are also searching after you. And those who are searching after super soul realization are also searching after you. You state in the Bhagavad Gita that you yourself, by your partial representation as the super soul, have entered into this material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the super soul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. One who is transcendental to such a position understands that you are unlimited. You are both within and without. So, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that despite all this, if a person is trying to search the Supreme Lord, where in the forest or in the caves of the Himalayas, then his situation is very lamentable. That he is discarding the devotional service of the Lord and trying to explore Him, find Him in such places, right? So it is very clear that what should one do? In Bhagavad Gita, Lord says that one should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply surrender unto Him. Right? Okay. So those who are searching after the Brahma effulgence, they are also after the Supreme Lord. Those who are after super soul realization, they are also searching after the Lord. So therefore, one is actually looking every time, everywhere for Krishna. Even if we see this book, which is the preface, the foreword to this book was written by George Harrison, who wrote that everybody is looking for Krishna. Some realize it and some don't. So everybody is looking for Krishna. You are, so let's continue. You state in the Bhagavad Gita that you yourself, by your partial manifestation as a super soul, have entered into this material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the super soul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. One who is transcendental to such a position understands that you are unlimited. You are both within and without. Therefore, your presence is everywhere. Instead of searching for the super soul anywhere else, a devotee only concentrates his mind on you within. Actually, one who is liberated from the material concept of life can search for you, others cannot. The analogy of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, when one mistakes a rope for a snake, the existence of the snake is only within the mind. The existence of Maya, similarly, is only within the mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. Right? When one forgets your personality, that is the conditioned state of Maya. Therefore, one who is fixed upon you, both internally and externally, is not illusion. So, Prabhupada is very nicely explaining that if somebody understands a rope to be a snake, then the image of the snake is basically present in the mind. It does not actually, it's not there actually present, right? Similarly, if if one is not conscious, if one forgets your personality, then that is Maya. That is the conditioned state of Maya, right? But for one who is fixed up on the Lord internally and externally, then Maya cannot do anything to him. One who has attained a little result of devotional service can understand your glories. Even one striving for Brahma realization or Paramatma realization cannot understand these features of your personality unless you bestow on him the result of at least a slight bit of devotional service. One may be the spiritual master of many impersonalists, or he may go to the forest or to a mountain cave and meditate as a hermit for many, many years, but he cannot understand your glories without being favored by a slight degree of devotional service. So, here is the glory of devotional service being explained, that even for a person who is striving for Brahma realization or Paramatma realization. So, we had discussed previously that the Supreme Lord can be understood in three stages: Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So, if somebody is aspiring for Brahma realization or Paramatma realization, they will not be able to understand the Supreme Lord unless He bestows them a slight bit of His devotional service. Because the Supreme Lord can be understood only by dint of by doing devotional service. So if even if somebody meditates for thousands of years, and he might be the spiritual master of thousands of impersonalists, but that does not certify that he will be able to understand the Lord. So he cannot understand your glories without being favored by the slight degree of your devotional service. Brahm realization or Paramatma realization are also not possible, even after one searches for many, many years, unless one is touched by the wonderful effect of devotional service. So, Srila Prabhupada is explaining very nicely about the glories of devotional service. Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that in this life or in another life, wherever I may take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. Wherever I may be, I pray that I may be engaged in your devotional service. I do not care what form of life I get in the future, because I can see that even in the form of cows and calves or cowherd boys, the devotees are so fortunate to be always engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be one of them. Lord Brahma is so enamored and he deeply aspires to become, to associate with the Lord. And he's saying that no problem, any form of life you give me, I'm not least concerned. But I just want to be always engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be one of them instead of such an exalted person as I am now, for I am full of ignorance. I am called Brahma. People respect me. I'm such a respectable personality. But I don't want all this, right? I don't want to become an exalted person. I just want to become, I just want to associate with you. I just want to serve you. The gopis and cows of Vrindavan are so fortunate that they have been able to supply their breast milk to you. Persons who are engaged in performing great sacrifices and offering many valuable goats in sacrifice cannot attain the perfection of understanding you. But simply by devotional service, these innocent village women and cows are all able to satisfy you with their milk. You have drunk their milk to satisfaction, yet you are never satisfied as much by those engaged in performing sacrifices. So here Lord Brahma is saying that even if people might do lot of sacrifices or yajnas, they might do many elaborate yajnas, but that does not satisfy the Supreme Lord. What satisfies him? Right? The devotional service of these innocent village women who have fed Krishna. He becomes satisfied by their love, their affection, and he's not satisfied by the elaborate sacrifices of people. So I am surprised, therefore, with the fortunate position of Maharaj Nanda, Maharaj Yashoda, and the cowherd man and the gopis, because you, the supreme personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, are existing here as their most intimate, lovable object. My dear Lord, no one can actually appreciate the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan. We are all demigods, controlling deities of various senses of the living entities, and we are proud of enjoying such privileges. But actually, there is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan, because they are actually relishing your presence and enjoying your association by dint of their sensory activities. We may be proud of being controllers of the senses, or am I saying that we are controller of the senses? We are the presiding deities of the senses. Yet, it is beyond. There is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan. They are so fortunate. We might be puffed up. We might be very proud of our being controllers of the senses, but here the residents of Vrindavan are so transcendental that they are not under our control. Actually, they are enjoying their senses through service to you. I shall therefore consider myself fortunate to be given a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan in any of my future lives. So, Lord Brahma initially said that you give me any species, any form you give me, I am ready to accept. I just want to live in your association and serve you. And now he's saying that if possible, please consider me that I'll consider myself fortunate if you give me a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan, which is so fortunate, and in any of my future life. So that is the position of Lord Brahma. That such an exalted personality of this universe is praying to the Supreme Lord that please give me a chance to serve you and to live in your association in your land of Vrindavan. So we should also have this, we can also learn from Lord Brahma that how should be our mood when we approach the Supreme Lord. And when we see how Lord Brahma is praying, we can also learn how to pray to the Supreme Lord. The humility with which he is praying, that's really amazing. So we'll stop here for our discussion today, and we'll be continuing the last 6 pages. We'll cover tomorrow, so you can study it on your own. And our test will be conducted on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. So we'll close for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai, Nidai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.